Meeting will now come to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Almond, please call the roll.
Director Conley,
Here.
Director Emig, Director Hogan,
Here.
Director Kindig,
Here.
Director McKinney,
Present.
Director Meese. Here. Director Miller. Here. Director Whitmer. Here. Director Wolverton.
Here.
8 present.
Thank you, Mrs. Almond. We had some presentations scheduled on the agenda, and they have been removed from the agenda. One was not prepared to speak, and the other one withdrew. So we'll go immediately to our public comment period. First public comment period will be for 3 minutes for each individual speaker. The board uses the public comment period as an opportunity to listen but not debate issues or enter into a question and answer session with the speaker. Public comment must be germane to school district business. The board values civil, respectful statements and clear and concise communication that helps to inform its deliberations. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please approach the podium and we'll speak in order. The timer will be displayed on the screen. I'll try to also keep an eye on that. And just state your name and your address unless you already signed in, and just state that you signed in.
Okay,
Right.
My name's Barry Callahan, and I did already sign in, and just as an FYI, I was on the school board for 10 years, so I do know how challenging this is, so there's that. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk, I'm very distressed about a piece of a policy that I believe you are going to be approving sometime in the near future, and it's policy 216.2. And it starts out, as part of it saying a child who is presenting as a different gender than they were at birth, and they presented a letter from their parent and a letter from the physician. And it seems like, the administration is all copacetic on what this child's identity is at that particular time. And, the proper pronouns would be used. But then it gets to, again, it's 216.2, and it's section D1, which talks about, a student can change and they can be with those genders, but then a teacher may decide not to agree to that because of their beliefs. And I just think this is so incredibly cruel to do to a child. Plus, I think it's really wrong. I just can't imagine how a teacher's beliefs can trump the well-being of a child. So that has me very concerned, when a child is going through all that. We don't have to go into all that, I'm sure you all can know. So I would really at some point like an explanation of what the justification is for the kind of harm that I think could be done to a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Callahan.
Hi, Jennifer McGurn. I signed in on the sheet. Last week, I submitted an email to every school board member addressing my concerns over the proposed policies targeting our LGBTQ youth. I strongly considered just reading that email tonight, since not a single one of you responded to it or even acknowledged receiving it. But then I realized that the facts about how policies such as these create incidents of bullying and lead to alarmingly high rates of suicide are clearly falling on deaf ears, and this board has their mind made up and we won't change them. So instead of rehashing those facts I already shared with you, I decided just to speak to say to our kids who are watching, who are listening, you're not alone. There are adults in this district who see you, who understand you, and who support you regardless of what pronoun you use or who you choose to love. I also wanted to ask the board, where's the transparency we were promised during your campaigns? Can anyone explain why these policies have been brought forth, or is it just what all the cool districts are doing? Your secret warehouse meetings and lack of transparency at school board meetings are concerning at least and illegal at worst. I'm curious if the designated hate group that you're in bed with has explained to you that each of you can be sued individually for violating Title IX, which states that any institution that receives federal funds must operate its education program or activities in a non-discriminatory manner, free of discrimination based on sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity. Has the ILC explained to you that while their bigoted advice may be pro bono, they will not be covering your court costs and individual suits filed as a result of lawsuits headed your way? I mean, they didn't cover the more than $1 million the district lost with the intelligent design lawsuit. Why would this be any different? Have they explained to you that you're going to garner not only local but national attention, and your employers, coworkers, friends, and neighbors will know exactly where you stand on these issues? While anyone who has been paying attention knows your views and motives for many of you come directly from your affiliation with Lighthouse Bible Baptist Church, I would like to remind you of a little thing called separation of church and state. The role of a school board director should be non-political and should not be religiously motivated. You're entitled to your beliefs, but not to impose them on a public school district. In closing, I'll share from my previous email. I can't think of anything less Christ-like than intentionally making children feel like they don't matter as individuals. Your decision will have lasting repercussions. In Galatians, a powerful testament to this principle is expressed. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is no male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. This was his word, not making people feel less than.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw.
My name is Sterling Walsh. I signed in. First of all, I want to thank the school board for taking on this job. It's a difficult job and for no compensation. Second thing I want to say is I'd like to encourage us to live in the funds that we have. All of us need to live within our budget that we have. And just because we're government doesn't mean that the pocketbooks are bottomless. And sometimes we have to make some tough decisions. Things that are good that we'd like to have isn't necessarily all that we can have. And you all, I believe, are trying to live within those budgets. But it is difficult to do so sometimes because some things we have to make some difficult decisions. Thirdly, there are some issues that you're going to be dealing with here very soon that are difficult issues that are no way to reconcile all beliefs to come to a conclusion to the satisfaction of all. I raised 4 children. I know what it's like. We want to protect our children physically and emotionally. The fact is, though, so I've raised 4. My youngest just turned 30 this month. Sometimes as the young children, we have to protect them from themselves. That's a difficult decision sometimes to make. And sometimes they don't understand. Now, the fact is, this board and the last 2 elections were probably 2 of the most transparent elections for the school board since I've been in this area for 20 years. It was clear what these candidates ran on. And in fact, the last group had a website that said what they believed. There were forums, and yes, I'm the pastor of Lighthouse Baptist Church, and there were forums for the public to come and see. And the fact is, the people spoke. This is called a democratic republic. The republic speaks. We elect people to speak for us, to make decisions for us, and we democratically elect these people. The fact is, these people do not have their own agenda. Their agenda was very clearly stated when they ran, and they were elected overwhelmingly. More people voted for in the school board election than it has in quite a few years. And to be honest with you, to not go by what they presented when they ran for the position would be to have their own agenda.
At 10 seconds.
So I just want us to give you I think we need to give these people the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they all love your children and they want the best for them. And I know that's difficult to understand, but I think there'll be some way to compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Good evening, Dover School Board. I am Phoenix Calhoun, and today I'm going to be speaking on the new policy that has been brought up regarding names and pronouns. I would like to start off by saying Phoenix is not my birth name, and I use they, them pronouns. Do you all of a sudden feel threatened by my presence now that I've mentioned that? I can't believe that the moment someone says they go by a different name and pronouns, they are no longer seen as human. I am lucky enough to have parents that support me using a different name and pronouns, but not everyone is so lucky. Kids who have parents that aren't supportive are more likely to experience child abuse if the parents figure out their kid is LGBTQ+. And if the student goes by their birth name instead, that can be incredibly harmful to the student's mental health. They're more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety. Also, notice how I used they as a singular pronoun right there. It's not that difficult. When teachers get married and their last name changes, no one complains. It's so easy for us to change our language for a teacher's last name, so why is it so much harder for us to change our language for someone's first name? In a study done by Vanderbilt University Medical Center, it shows 57% of LGBT people experience emotional abuse before the age of 18, compared to 33% of straight people, as well as 40% of LGBT people experience physical abuse compared to 24% of straight people. And according to the Trevor Project, 28% of LGBT youth experience homelessness or housing instability at some point. Higher rates of this were reported among non-binary and transgender youth, the group that this policy mainly targets, with 38% of trans girls, 39% of trans boys, and 35% of non-binary youth experiencing homelessness. Aside from that, 16% of LGBT youth reported running away from home, over half of them running away because of mistreatment of their identity. 14% report being kicked out or abandoned. I know not everyone will agree with the fact that students should be allowed to go by their preferred name and pronouns, but you have to recognize that this does not help the students. As a school board, you should be fighting with and for the students, not against them. This policy completely goes against Title IX, as this is discrimination based on gender identity. Letting teachers put their personal beliefs onto students by allowing them to refuse to use correct name and pronouns is discrimination. Only referring to students by their legal name and legal pronouns until given parental consent is discrimination. I know and I encourage anyone else who is listening, will file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights if this policy goes through. I am a senior in high school. I have 7 school days left, and yet I am still fighting for the rights of those below me. This policy won't affect me, but it will affect so many of those students that come after me. We are listening, and we will continue to fight for our rights.
Thank you, Ms. Calhoun.
Hello, my name is Jalen Aaliyah Kidd, but I go by Allie. Apparently that is okay because that is part of my original name, but I see we are cherry picking. I'd like to share some harrowing statistics that the school board seems to either be unaware of or blatantly ignoring. Suicide rates. Trans youth are 7.6 times more likely to attempt suicide, with more than 50% of trans youth having attempted or seriously contemplated committing suicide. Now, as part of the community, I'm saddened to say not every member of the LGBT community has an accepting family or a support system, and a disproportionate amount of homelessness youth tends to be the part of LGBTQ population. That being said, trans youth are almost 10 times as likely to face homelessness compared to their peers. Forcing students to present themselves as something they are not is one of the most dangerous things we can do. And I'm appalled at the direction our school board has gone to save their own skins while throwing their students under the bus. Not every trans student feels safe in their homes, and sometimes school is the only place they can single-handedly be themselves. And you guys are ripping that away from them. Having to make an accommodation request to be referred to by the names and pronouns that make students feel any resemblance of comfort is horrid, dystopian, and void of any remaining empathy we gave the school board the benefit of the doubt of having. I'd say this begs the question, does the district only care about themselves? But it is so blatantly obvious that they don't care about their students. Finally, to the board members, families, and faculty that wishes for these changes to go through, I am sorry that trans people make you uncomfortable, but the world is uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria Wartz, and I did sign in. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start by reading a thank you letter I wrote, if that's okay with you. Is it? Dear God, I would like to thank you for giving us human beings freedom, giving us free will, for allowing us to make decisions on our own. for allowing us to choose what church we want to go to, be it a church that does not believe in contraceptives or having as many children as you want, or a church that believes alcohol should never touch your lips, maybe a church that only believes in the Old Testament. But also, thank you for allowing people who do not want to believe in those things the opportunity to not. You see, because of you, I understand that we are not all round pegs and will not all fit in round holes. Some of us are squares, some of us rectangles, and still others triangles or octagons. But I do not believe it is you that would like for someone to take sandpaper and sand off our corners so that we can fit in their round holes. Sincerely, Nana Maria. Now, that being said, I am a citizen of the United States of America. The Constitution guarantees us the freedom to believe whatever we wish. Nobody can tell us how we should believe or live. This being said, I believe this also goes for the children of people living in the United States. If a child has a question about who they are, these questions should be addressed by counselors, their parents, and them. This is not a decision a school board should be making. I did read today in the newspaper that the lawyer suing our district is part of the lawyer group who is giving free advice to our district. I personally see this as a conflict of interest. Why should we take advice from a group who has a lawsuit against us? I also figured out that this question should not even been brought up this year. But it is a great way to move people's thoughts off of budgets and possible budget cuts and get them thinking about something else. Good job, board.
Thank you, Mrs. Walsh. Board.
How are you guys? My name is Ben Cerbello. I'm the associate pastor at Friendship Community Church, and I did sign in. And this is my first time in, I guess, 11 years of being a resident in Dover to make my presence here. And I just want to thank you for all that you guys do. I know that this is an interesting topic, a tough topic, but I'm here to represent a group we're trying to start called For Our Kids. And it's a ministry designed to pray over the school board, pray over the schools, pray over the children, pray over the principals, the vice principals, the superintendents. And we just want to encourage all of you to make decisions based on our children. And I have to bring up my boss since someone mentioned Jesus Christ. That's who I work for. And they mentioned God. And I just want to read to you what's in his handbook of life. And it's in chapter 1, the very beginning of it. It's Genesis 1, verses 27 and 28. And God says, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground.'" I don't think it's a question of how many genders we have. I think we all know how many genders we have. The question is, do we want to play God? Do we want to be God? Do we want to work for God? Or do we just want to exist? And I just pray over all of those things. I pray over everyone, regardless of what side of the coin that they're on. And I just pray that hearts will realize that we're a country that was built on Judeo-Christian principles, and the freedoms that offers is not around the world. If you look at Islam, for example, they persecute LGBTQ. It's not a loving society. This country that we're in, because of the freedoms, is probably the most loving society for individuals that want to either change their gender or identity or whatever. And I just pray hearts would realize the details of everything that has to do with why America is America. And I just pray you guys remember that you're in our hearts. You're being prayed over and for. So just stay strong and follow convictions because it's not always about pleasing everyone. It's about saving what's right and saving what's true. So God bless you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Sabella.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laura Cohen. I'm a resident of Dover, and I did sign in she, her pronouns. Um, like the last speaker, this is my first time ever coming to a board meeting. I've lived in Dover for 20 years, and I moved in here in 2005, and we know what happened then here in Dover. So it was an exciting time, and I agree, you have a very difficult job. I hope you have an open mind and you're hearing what these people have to say on all sides and haven't made up your decision yet, one way or another. But I am a board member on the Rainbow Rose Center. We serve York County's LGBTQIA community, including youth. There is actually a significant community in Dover. I have met them, I talked to them in the community. They do exist. I don't know if you're surprised to hear that or not. I believe we've just met a few, and I'm very excited that they're here. But I hope you know that that is not the limit of it. There are quite a few people. I also don't believe anybody here thinks that the vote today on these anti-trans policies are about protecting children or about education. Um, a vote yes on this policy today is what I equate to board sanctioned bullying and erasure, and it puts the physical and mental health of the youth in Dover at severe risk. You may not believe that, you may not see that, but it is the truth, and you will see that at some time. You will learn that. And whether you can sleep with that at night is on you, but it is the truth. It puts them at severe risk. Um, and so I hope for those students that are here, if they're watching this or seeing this, that we are here. You do have support. We're here for you, and we hope that you will reach out in the case that this policy is passed. And we support all of you, even if you aren't getting support from your school board. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan.
Good evening. My name is Chris Rotolo. I did sign in the hallway. I'm here again to denounce the board's agreement with the ILC. As you know, at the very least, this is going to cause more budget issues in the future. I was trying to think about how we got to this point. So I took a look back at your ABC website that you ran on. Director King had quoted rejecting political agendas. Director Hogan wanted to improve transparency. Director McKinney wanted to keep politics out and be completely transparent. And Director Connolly wanted to improve transparency and believes the board should be responsive to the community that they serve. These are your words, not mine. Your comments last week about having the right to meet with others did not paint the picture of transparency. The silence that led up to that believed me to believe the words that were printed in the press about being sneaky as serpents. And if I'm off the mark, please feel free to correct my misunderstandings. Okay. To be transparent, I'm not an instigator, simply here to advocate for my children and all the children that go to Dover. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jessica Charlton, and I signed in. I just wanted to take a moment to also express my concern about the policies that you're voting on. But in addition, I want to kind of juxtapose some of the things that we're talking about with regards to transparency. Last week, you had an opportunity to comment on said policies, and I thought it very interesting that not a single one of you wanted to comment on those policies in that allowed time. And I think that when we're, folks in our community that are worried about our children and worried about what the implications of such policies being passed will do, that when we want, to hear your transparency, it seems guarded. When we give our transparency, when we come up here and speak our truth and advocate for our children who we love, regardless of how they identify, it's sneered upon or it's looked down upon or we're called instigators. We're not instigators. We're parents and community members that care. We care a lot because we have children in this school. I'm a mom that has 2 kids in our school system. And that's why I felt called to speak here tonight and just speak extemporaneously about the fact that I am vehemently against these policies. You will be hurting children more than you think you know. And for what it's worth, as someone who looked back on this date, May 21st, 2010, I was reminded of another landmark decision that Pennsylvania has made. And that was when we voted to promote and legalize gay marriage. Now, I am a pretty okay and decent community member, and it may come as a complete and utter surprise to you that I am the parent of 2 moms, or I'm sorry, I'm the child of 2 moms. And I think I've done pretty acceptable, outstanding, maybe some would even say. I have advanced degrees. So what was more important is that I was raised in a kind, caring, and loving home, an inclusive home, and a home that was a safe place for many of my friends who didn't have a place to go because their parents couldn't accept them for who they were. So that's the kind of household that I try to raise my children in, an inclusive and loving one. So I just thought it was interesting on that sort of landmark thing that we're here fighting in a school district for a policy that is exclusive. I urge you to consider inclusivity and to hearken back to the 2005 decisions and legal things that got this school district in so much trouble. The words come to mind. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. Thank you.
Charles. Anyone else? Okay, the public comment session is closed. Next section is Board President's Communication, section number 3, announcement of executive sessions. We had an executive session tonight to discuss legal matters and to discuss labor issues. Our first agenda item, or the first vote that we will be having, and I'll mention this just so you're aware of what's on the agenda tonight. The media reported that we will be voting on the policies tonight. We will not be voting on the policies tonight. The process goes through a first and second reading. So the introduction in this month is the first reading. Next month, we'll have the second reading, and then the policies at that point would be eligible for a motion to either approve or to reject the policies. All right. So our first voting block here is going to be the consent agenda for student activity, which is section 4. This, if you attended last week's meeting, we discussed all of the items in this agenda, including field trips and the Dover graduates. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda number 4?
I have a question on one of the items that's in this consent agenda. Can I ask it now, or do we pull it out, or what do we do?
Well, we can discuss, or you can ask it to be pulled out. Either way.
Well, the question is on agenda item 606, the field trip.
406.
6.06.
We are in section 4
Oh, I'm sorry.
of the agenda. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see, 6.06. And May 20. 4.06 would be this one. 6.06 is the,
Okay. I bring this out separately.
okay. All right. So we're back on the same page. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda number 4?
I'd have to question on 4.06.
4.06?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You want to pull that out separately?
Well, I
or-
can ask the question. If we
Okay.
get an answer, we can leave it in.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
last week, Mr. Benton had said to the board, if we could tentatively agree to approve this without officially agreeing, he was going to be able to save us $2,000 by combining with the other school districts. I looked at the request, and the request doesn't look like it's changed. So I was wondering, what is the cost? Has the cost gone down, or?
The form wasn't changed from last week, that's all.
Okay, but the cost has gone down, even though the form doesn't reflect it.
It will if Mr. Benton said it will, yes.
We gave him approval to go ahead and make the arrangements for the trip. So approval of this will be a formality, but we'll need a corrected form. Or at least a corrected amount on, does anyone know what the correct amount is?
Mr. Benton's not here, so we'll have to defer with him.
Okay. I don't think we're going to be holding anything up by pulling this out, if it's important that we get the correct number on there. Because it's already, or will we?
The trip is June 21st and the June board meeting is June 20th. So yes, it would be holding things up.
Okay, so can we approve it? We can approve it with a caveat of a number. If it's going to be $2,000 less than this, we can approve that with a caveat.
You're
right?
approving it based on the fact that you know that it's going to go down by the amount that Mr. Benton indicated last week.
So why don't we handle the rest of the consent agenda, and then we'll pull this one out. We'll vote separately and put language in there with the reduction in the amount.
Okay.
Okay, so we entertain a motion to approve consent agenda number 4 with number 4.06 being pulled out.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda item 4, disregarding 4.06.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Director McKinney moves and Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Director Conley and Director Miller, your votes are not showing.
Okay, let me sign in again here.
What's that?
You didn't get it?
Logged in, but I must have logged me out, sorry. I was logged in. So.
Okay, can you push the vote again to me and Director Miller?
We can do a voice vote for you two on this one.
Okay,
Director Conley, your vote.
yes.
Director Miller, your vote.
Yes, sorry.
Motion carries 8-0.
All right. All right, we'll now take up agenda item 4.06 separately. Director Kindig, would you please either state a motion or what you like stipulated in that?
I make a motion, we approve 4.06 with the understanding that the final paperwork will come back to us showing the reduction as discussed by Mr. Benton.
All right, it has been moved,
I'll second the motion.
and Director McKinney seconds the motion. Do you have the content of that motion yet? Let me know when you have that.
The motion is on the screen. Please let me know if you need corrections.
Okay, is that accurate? Okay, he says it is accurate. Is there any discussion on the motion?
It's accurate.
Okay, please call the vote.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is consent agenda for human resources. Is there any agenda items that the directors would like pulled out?
I would like to get a little bit of background on 5.02 as far as experience that this candidate has.
Mrs. Snyder, would you like to speak this evening?
Hi, I'm Jamie Snyder. I am currently an assistant principal at Redland High School. I have been there for for approximately 2 years as an assistant principal. Prior to that, I worked as a supervisor of special education as an interim at Fairfield Area School District. I have approximately 15 years of special education experience as a classroom teacher as well, between K to 12.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Snyder. Before you go, would the board like to ask any questions before she sits down? All right.
You said,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, you said Redland?
Yes,
Okay, just wanted to make sure I had the right one.
you got it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 5.01, consent agenda?
I'll make the motion, we approve 5.01.
Director Kindig moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Motion carries 8-0.
All right. Let's go to contracts and agreements. Agenda item 6.01, letter of agreement with True North Wellness for SAP liaison services. These are all going to be taken up separately in section number 6 because they involve finances and contracts. Is there any discussion or questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve item 6.01.
Director Whitmer moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Motion carries 8-0.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 6.02, MOU with Lincoln Intermediate Unit for Title III Program Consortium for English Learners and Immigrants. MOU is attached. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve item 6.02, MOU with Lincoln Intermediate Unit for English Learners Immigrants.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Kindig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 6.03, the 2024-2025 contract for reservation of seats at the River Rock Academy. Contract is attached to the agenda item. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve item 6.03, contract with River Rock Academy.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 6.04, the 2024-2025 agreement with River Rock Academy for alternative education services, and the agreement is attached. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve 6.04.
Director Kindig moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Whitmer seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 6.05, contract with WellSpan Sports Medicine for July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027 for athletic training services. Are there any questions? We had Dr. Weasling in here answered questions last week for us. Is there any further questions?
This is now a 3-year contract, correct?
Yes, we received a clarification via email that it is for 3 years. And that's been corrected on the agenda. Originally, it was displayed last week as a 1-year contract. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve item 6.05, WellSpan Athletic Training Contract.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Kindig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next agenda item 6.06 is the Apple Incorporated Education Price Quote for iPads. These are for students. Contract is attached. Total amount will be $1.7 million and some change. Are there any questions? $1.78 million. All right, is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to
I
approve?
move to approve the Apple Education for the iPad 6.06.
Director Hogan moves. Is there a second?
Director Meese, I'll second.
Director Mee seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? I will say that, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Okay, I thought you were gesturing to speak. I will say that this is a fairly significant expense, keeping in mind that we just approved a significant contract. I forget the total amount that we pay for the teachers. This is almost $1.8 million. And we're in the paradigm where it seems like it's absolutely necessary to have the Apple iPads for the students. And I can understand that, so I looked at the numbers. It ended up being about $137 per student per year once you calculate our enrollment into that number and divide it by the length of the contract, which is a 4-year contract. $137 for the equipment, then you have additional expense. I think Mr. Boyd said it would be, I think he said about $100 for the cases for these things. So
Correct.
it does add up a little bit. The software that goes on them, I think by and large comes with the curriculum. Breaking it down that way, it's a little bit more palatable, but looking in terms of a roughly $75 million budget, we're going to spend a significant amount of money on this, dividing the 1.8 by 4. So I don't see without totally upending the entire system that they have that incorporates the use of these things. I did note that I've talked to some other school systems and teachers. Mostly you hear this from teachers. When you purchase new equipment, and I'll just use the smart boards. The smart boards were a rage for a while, and I know they're in most of our classrooms, but after a while they don't use them as much. Now, that's speaking for those teachers and those particular school systems that I talk to, but maybe every teacher is using them here. But I would encourage that when we're expending this kind of money, let's make sure we're using those things as much so as possible to get our money's worth out of them. So that's all I have to say, is just I've got reservations. I plan on supporting this, but it is a lot of money. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 6.07, which is ACIA base bid of $29,722 for HVAC filters throughout the district. It's going to be paid for by ESSER's funds. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve 6.07 HVAC filters.
Director Hogan moves. Is there a second?
I second.
Director Kindig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 6.08, purchase of tenant cleaning equipment and preventative maintenance agreement. This will also be paid for in full by the Esser's money. Are there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve item 6.08, purchase of tenant cleaning equipment with Esser's funds.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
I second.
Director Kindig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 6.09, 2024-2025 agreement with Assist Services LLC. Are there any questions?
Is this just an additional transportation contract similar to E&B and all the others?
Yeah, they're just a little different because it's more like an Uber.
Okay,
So you pay for the service if you use the service.
as needed, yeah.
Yes, exactly. as
Okay,
needed.
thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve 6.09 agreement with Assist Services LLC.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. The next item is agenda item 6.10, the PSBA membership renewal. Contract is attached. Are there any questions? Director Whitman.
Well, I know we did get some additional information from Dr. Cartwright. I think I'm just still not set on what exactly we're using, not using, and that if we could have an extra month to just have more discussion, more information, I would appreciate that. I'm not ready to vote on this tonight.
Dr. Meese, do you have any, as a PSBA rep for the board, do you have any additional information that you found on this as far as what service levels we should subscribe to and what the price points are?
Why don't I put together a minute or two spiel on what it is and what our different options are. I'll talk to my PSBA rep, our PSBA rep directly about that and give us maybe like 3 options or something next month. Is that okay? Do we know when this is due, when we have to pay this by? Next month is fine.
So our membership expires June 30, right? So we have time to renew this.
Yeah, that would be helpful. On the invoice, it does say the all access package, which we're unsure what we're using, is the standard membership plus 3,500, but it'd be good to know what's in the standard membership,
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
because that might be all we use.
Yeah. And as far as the School Safety Institute, I was incorrect. I checked again with our PSBA rep and she double checked and said that Nobody actually attended the Safety Institute walk through, open house, training, whatever that was a couple weeks ago. Nobody from our district went, so we're not using that either. I thought that we were at least using that. So is that okay if I come back next?
Yeah, we can do that. Is there a motion to table this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to table item 6.10, PSBA membership renewal.
Director Whitmer motions to table the agenda item. Is there a second?
I will second.
Director McKinney seconds the motion to table. All right, let's, we'll have to, unless you can set that up real quickly, we'll go straight to a vote. So that is a motion to table by Director Whitmer, seconded by Director McKinney. Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion before we go to a vote? Hearing none, you please call the vote.
Okay, the vote is
It's
open.
up.
Oh, okay.
Director Hogan, I'm still waiting for your vote.
I already voted.
Okay, it's not registered.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
So quick.
Director Miller,
Same thing. Yes. It came through, but it said.
I think that I saw when you did the drop down, their votes were in there as yes before you made the change,
Yeah, I
so that
cleared
might
it
have
out.
messed it
You
up.
hit the original vote, I think.
Director Whitmer,
I had an error message, but my vote was yes.
8 yes.
And the motion to table carries. All right, agenda item 6.11, affiliation agreement with Westchester University for social worker. Are there any questions?
I thought we had that discussion at last week's meeting that we thought the social worker was not the proper title of what we were looking for.
There was a discussion whether it was a teacher, intern, or a social worker.
So the contract is, or the affiliation agreement is attached and lists the duties and responsibilities of the university and the duties and responsibility of the site. Let's see if.
Yeah, the incorrect agreement was attached last week. Now they match up this week, so it looks like it was corrected.
Okay, we just didn't change the title of it.
Everything's been corrected.
Okay, so it does deal with the university students in the area of social work, as stated in the agreement.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood the conversation last week. I thought we were looking at a student teacher, not a social worker.
Okay. Any other questions? Agenda item 6.11. No other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve 6.11, affiliation agreement with Westchester for social worker.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. All right, agenda item 7.01. This is under section 7, finances. Is there a motion to approve the bills paid report?
I'll make the motion to approve 7.01 bills paid.
Director McKinney moves.
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote. For those of you who are attending for the first time, all of these items were discussed in a lot more detail during last week's planning meeting.
Director Meese, your vote?
Sorry.
8 yes.
And the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve 7.02 treasurer's report.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion?
I did another comparison today between March and April, and I have no outstanding questions.
All right,
Good to
excellent.
go.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a section on action. Agenda item 8.01, the proposed final budget for the 2024-2025 school year, 0% tax increase, and the use of the fund balance for the remainder of the deficit. Proposed budget is attached. Are there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the preliminary budget?
I move we approve the proposed preliminary budget.
Director Kindig moves. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Director McKinney seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? All right, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. I think we should probably take a breath right here. That represents a steep learning curve for the new incoming board. And I know that it's not over yet, but getting to the preliminary budget is a significant milestone for this particular board. And I'd hate to rush off into the next agenda item without taking that deep breath and acknowledging all the work and the questions being asked, and a lot of work that we put the administration through asking a lot of questions. So we're much closer, and we thank you in particular, Mrs. Weaver, for your responsiveness to not just 1 or 2 or 10 or 20, but a lot of questions. So thank you for that. All right, agenda item 8.02. Appointment of Rob McKinney as treasurer for a 1-year term from July 1st, 2024, June 30th, 2025. Mr. McKinney has been serving as our treasurer. He was appointed due to a vacancy at the beginning of the year. He's been serving. Adequately? I should not say.
Adequately.
I
I'll
said
take
that-
adequately.
I said that on purpose. But he's been serving well and getting better at this every month. We appreciate your work. So this normally comes as a nomination. Normally, does it not?
We did that last
You
week.
did that last week.
Did we nominate him with a
Yes.
vote?
You did, yeah.
You nominated him to put him on the agenda for this time to vote on by
Okay.
the board members.
There was never a vote to approve the nomination. There's nobody else nominated either, so we could
Correct.
just approve the
Correct.
agenda item? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Rob McKinney as the treasurer for a one-year term?
I move to approve Rob McKinney as treasurer for one-year term.
Okay, Director Hogan moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. There should have been a mad rush to second that motion because nobody else really wants to be the treasurer, right? All right. Is there any discussion?
Should I abstain from the vote?
No.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? All right, Mrs. Ullman, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next agenda item is agenda item 8.03, the appointment of Amy Allman as the Assistant Board Secretary for the 2024-2025 school year. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve 8.03, appointment of Amy Allman.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for being willing.
I agree, and I made some laudatory statements last week. We appreciate your professionalism and your willingness to do it again. Thank you very much. You ready to vote? All right, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next item is agenda item 8.04, the Xanadu publishing quote for textbook purchase, OpenStax, American Government 3E. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve 8.04, the textbook purchase of the OpenStax American Government 3E.
As it should be, moved by teachers. Thank you for that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Kindig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next agenda item is agenda item 8.05, the Perfection Learning Quote for textbook purchase, AP US Government and Politics, SE version 3E. Quote is attached. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I can make the motion for 8.05, Perfection Learning Quote for textbook purchase of AP US Government and Politics.
Dr. Miller moves. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Director McKinney seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? All right, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. I appreciate Dr. Houck's thriftiness and a recommendation on both of those purchases. Thank you. Agenda item 8.06, the conference request for Kelly Renard to attend the 2024 SNAP-E Annual Conference in Pocono Manor, Pennsylvania. Dates are there. Cost of the trip is $873. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Director Meese, I'll make a motion to approve 8.06.
Director Meese moves. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Director Kindig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next agenda item is agenda item 8.07, the obsolete listing for the technology department. The listing is attached. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Director Meese, I make a motion to approve 8.07.
Director Meese moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Whitmer seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? All right, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next agenda item is obsolete listing, agenda item 8.08 for the Live Elementary Library. The listing is attached to the agenda item. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Director Meese, I'll make a motion to approve 8.08.
Director Meese moves. Is there a second?
Well, second.
Director McKinney seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Next three agenda items are the approval of minutes from past meetings. First one is agenda item 8.09, the minutes of the April 9th, 2024 special board meeting. The minutes of the meeting are attached. Mrs. Almond, would you please read the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion that we forego the reading of 8.09, 8.10, and 8.11. They are attached. They haven't been read. You could read them.
Okay. Director Wolverton moves that we dispense with the reading of the minutes for April 9th, special board meeting, the April 9th board planning meeting, and the April 16th board meeting.
Director Meese, I'll second that.
Director Meese seconds the motion. Is there, hang on a second, catch this here. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Has everyone reviewed the minutes for their accuracy? All right, hearing none, please, we'll have to take these in order, 8.09, and we'll just go quickly through the votes. I think that'll make it easier on you, right?
Okay, are you voting to dispense the reading of the minutes?
I'm sorry, you're exactly right. Point well taken. Okay, please call the vote.
Seven yes, one no.
And the motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 9th special board meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the special board meeting, item 8.09.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
I'll second. Director Whitmer.
Director Whitmer seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 9th, 2024 board planning meeting, agenda item 8.10?
Director Meese, I'll make a motion to approve 8.10.
Director Meese moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 8.11, the minutes of the April 16th, 2024 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Director Meese, I'll make a motion to approve 8.11.
Director Meese moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the minutes are approved. All right, agenda item, or section 9 rather, are the reports. So agenda item 9.01 is the Dover Eager Foundation report. And I don't know which one. would
I'll
like
take
to
this
do.
one.
Director McKinney?
Yep, I pulled up the minutes from the May meeting. Most of the discussion is around the Veterans Memorial, which they have made the first payment on the granite. And yesterday was the groundbreaking. So they're moving forward to get that done for Veterans Day, November 11th, I believe. So that's moving forward. They have a lot of services donated by local companies, which is great. They're doing a fundraiser coming up on May 28th, Dover Community Day at the York Revolution Stadium. So $6 of each ticket sold goes back to the scholarship fund, to the foundation. And the other thing they discussed at the meeting is they do want to get more board members. They're looking for recruiting additional members to join the Dover Eagle Foundation to assist with fundraising and events and to serve. Next meeting will be June 5th. I believe Director Hogan will take that one.
Excellent. Any questions for Director McKinney? Thank you for the report.
Sure.
Next agenda item is the York Adams Academy report. Director Emig is not with us. Does anyone else have that report? Hearing none, we'll move on. No report noted for York Adams Academy. Agenda item 11.01, the York County School of Technology report. I attended that meeting. They did a fine job again of recognizing students. They reported they're working on labor contracts with the teachers' unions. Unable to provide you details on that because of the executive session. And they have some workforce opportunities. They're looking for teachers at the York School of Technology. And if you're interested in that, please contact Dr. Rogers at the school. And that is all we have from the York School of Technology. Any questions? All right, next item on the agenda is the LIU number 12, York Learning Center Joint Authority Report. Director Miller.
So for the LIU number 12, they met on May 7th. 2 new job descriptions were adopted, Administrative Assistant to Director of Finance and the Associative Supervisor of Online Learning. They accepted 12 resignations, 15 retirements, and filled 10 professional and 6 support positions. The next meeting is June 4th. For the York Learning Center, which I do attend, we met on May 15th. The 2024-2025 budget was approved, 1.96 million capital reserve. Revenue is from districts, non-member districts, and rent. They get a lot of rent through their gym, Identigo, and the LIU Health Center. They will begin using Jan Pro as a cleaning service July 1st. They have completed a feasibility study on the buildings and grounds. And next year will be the last payment for the building lease of $497,000 and $497,448. Currently, there are 24 classrooms with 150 students. They will be celebrating 9 graduates from the York Learning Center. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Director Miller?
Back to, I believe it was the LIU, you said 15 retirements. Is that a typical number? Because that sounds high. You may not know since you don't know the history.
I really don't know.
Maybe that's a question you can ask, because that sounds like a lot.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the next agenda item, the legislative report. Director Whitmer.
Yes, so the budget is not finalized. We're still waiting. The governor and the House majority are asking for increased education funding. The House minority is in opposition, looking at some accountability for the increase, and they're referring to many years of increase prior. So they're looking for that to explain his numbers. And there are some bills I'm watching, and I'm going to be doing some research on in regards to CTE funding. The Senate earlier in May passed a 9% income tax cut, and that moves to the House. So that will affect our local revenue, I'm sure. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Whitmer?
You said a 0.9% income tax cut?
9%. I have 9%, but I'll get back to you. That does sound high now that you say it.
Is that on the state income tax to 3.07%?
I'll get back to you.
Okay, I think so. I think that's what that was referring to. I think it was a 0.09.
Okay, any other questions?
Nothing new to report from the
Okay.
Industrial Committee.
All right. This is for the Dover Industrial Commercial Development Committee report. And so Director Wolverton says nothing new to report. So I've been hearing, there was a radio program on WSBA the other morning about some additional impacts they were talking related to the warehouse. Did you happen to hear that report? Did you
No.
get any feedback on that?
No, I haven't gotten any feedback on it, other than there are a lot of residents who don't like it,
Yeah,
the idea of putting it in, but
right. Any other questions concerning that report or any information anybody else has related to community development? Commercial development, I should say. Hearing none, let's move on. Agenda item 15.01, the Pennsylvania School Board Association report. Director Meese.
Yes, thank you. Director Miller and I participated in the Right to Know online seminar that they had this afternoon. So that information will be coming out in text format and also video format, so I'll share that with you guys. It was a lot of complicated information. It's only an hour, and I know she had a lot to get through. So it was a lot of legal terminology. I'm like Google searching as she's talking, you know. So it was. I'd like to see it again, listen to it again. So it was informational. I didn't hear back from anybody as far as updates or changes, additions to the legislative platform. Just a reminder, if you can get those to me, if there are any updates, I need to get it on the agenda for June. We'll have to have it on the agenda for June. If everything looks good and you don't send me anything, then we're good to go. And we just won't we won't submit anything to PSBA.
So do we ratify their input, or how does that process work? They take input from school districts.
They do.
Is there some type of ratification of what they move forward?
My assumption is they'll make changes to their legislative platform based on the recommendations and input that they get from the districts. Yes.
If I can add, they have a conference every fall where they have delegates that vote on that platform. So based on the feedback from all the other boards, that determines what their platform is going to be, and then those delegates vote on the platform at that conference.
So do we have so she's our liaison, but she's not going to be a delegate, or is she, or how do we get to be a delegate?
I don't know exactly how you become a delegate, but your input, whatever Director Meese sends up to them, that is, put together with others and determine what the platform would be that's voted on in October, I believe.
Is it one vote per membership? So if a district.
I believe it based on the delegates who are there. So again, that's something that you'd have to check
on that. Could you check on that? And
I will.
See if we have, as a district, have a vote, since we have a membership, at least as of now. But
when she was explaining the whole legislative platform process to me like 2 months ago, again, it was a lot of information. So just for me to understand the legislative platform and what we had to do as a district to get the information to her, she explained that to me, the whole delegate process, but I'll have to ask again because I don't remember that. That was like, once we get this, I was thinking like, once we get the legislative platform and participate in that, then maybe we could take the next step there. I'm not sure how that works, but I'll explain it to her. I don't think it's difficult. I just have to remember what she said.
Okay, that makes sense. Any questions for Director Meese? All right, next is the superintendent's report. Dr. Cartwright.
I have plenty to report since my last report in March. 2 students have attained their credits and graduated from York Adams Academy, Adam Claiborne and Layla Jacino. Congratulations to 6th grader Nathaniel Ewing for earning 4th place in York County in the People's Bank Budgeting Game competition. The competition is a simulation of 18 months worth of budgeting and financial planning, and Nathaniel placed 4th in the county in the middle school division. Congratulations to our 31 middle school students who were recently inducted into the National Junior Honor Society. Caleb Hogan and Miriam Lamparter wrapped up their school year-long Future Leaders of York Fly program with a luncheon including students and administrators on April 17th. In Fly, high school sophomores and juniors from over 20 York County high schools learn to become lifelong responsible active participants in their hometown community. Participants develop leadership skills and lasting relationships with each other and community leaders. Congratulations to the music department for being named a recipient of the 2024 Best Communities for Music Education Award for the 11th time in 16 years since 2009. This is a national award given out by the National Association of Music Merchants, NAM Foundation. The award program recognizes outstanding efforts by teachers, administrators, parents, students, and community leaders who have made music education part of a well-rounded education. Designations are made to districts and schools demonstrating an exceptionally high commitment and access to music education. 6 of our students participated in PMEA's District 7 Jazz Concert at Central Dauphin High School. Congratulations to Leah Drake, Kaylin Floyd, Carter Gregoire, Jacob Hernandez, Anna Herndon, and Jalen Morris. In March, Dover Area Middle School hosted the York County Middle School Honors Band Festival. Approximately 135 students from 17 districts across the county performed in this prestigious event. Among the musicians were Alyssa Bray on clarinet, Trevor Fike on baritone, Ezekiel Hollenbach on tuba, Liam Lynch on trumpet, Emily Myers on alto sax, Allison Reynolds on flute, and Annika Shorb on flute, and Eric Smith on baritone sax. The following students were recognized for their achievement in agriculture at the York County Agricultural Society 37th Annual Banquet and received their FFA Keystone or American degree: Brianna Donay, Faith Sterner, Jace Corbin, Lindsay Knobb, Travis Smith, Willow Smith, Caleb Staples, and Grace Benton. Bryler Poteet, Caleb Hogan, Lexi Wells, Landon Farley, Ethan Deerdorf, Alex Roman, Catherine Allen, Kiara Austin, Kirsten Robbins, Russell Ziegler, and Macy Fetro attended the 2023-2024 State Conference and Competition. The Dover chapter was recognized as a chapter of excellence. As a result of their performance, 4 students who won were awarded Best in the State for their competitions and will be attending the Skills USA National Leadership and Skilled Competitions in Atlanta in June. Cameron Oliver received his YCal Electrical Pre-Apprenticeship credentials at the York Electrical Institute. Cameron completed the 10 pre-apprenticeship programs offered by YCal this spring while also working with students from 6 other York County schools. Dover DECA members attended the 2024 International Career Development Conference in Anaheim, California recently with Mrs. Kress. Maddox Miller and Ian Palazzotto received the SBE Gold Level certification for the 6th consecutive year for excellence and growth. Ankit New White and Bailey Mowell attended the Thrive Academy for Ultimate DECA chapters. The Dover team traveled and attended all events with Eastern York School District DECA and look forward to continued collaborative DECA efforts with them. Congratulations to Brianna Donay for being an official 24-25 FFA State Officer candidate. We wish Brianna luck in her 3-day candidacy at the FFA State Conference in June. Dover CTE hosted its 2nd Career Signing Day on last Tuesday, where 6 CTE students formally committed to beginning their careers after graduation by signing letters of intent with their respective employers. These placements align closely with the career and technical education programs the students successfully completed. The event showcased the following students: Preston Bukta signed with Bortner Brothers Incorporated. Devin Chronister and Travis Smith secured positions with Abbottstown Industries Incorporated. Brianna Platz committed to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Rian Rice joined Walton and Company Incorporated, and Caden Cannon Fowker signed with the Bellmark Technologies. It was a momentous occasion as parents and prospective employers joined in to celebrate the students' career choices and future endeavors. Congratulations to David Crone for his nomination as the Game Time PA Male Athlete of the Week, and to Emma Hockenberry, Melanie Toman, and Tristan Thomas for their nominations as Game Time PA Female Athletes of the Week. David is a senior on the varsity baseball team. Tristan and Melanie are junior and sophomore members of the track team, and Emma is a freshman on the softball team. Congratulations to the boys volleyball team, which has been selected to receive the 23-24 YAIAA Spring Sportsmanship Award. The team was nominated by the coaches of the teams Dover competes against in the league divisions. And as always the case, there have been several concerts this season. The finale was last night, Jazz Night, and my personal favorite since I've been here. Ms. Roberts arranged for several alumni to return and play for Mr. Bradshaw's last concert, and they and all performers were fabulous. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Cartwright. I appreciate you mentioning from the York School of Technology, Colin McGurran. In my report, I was remiss in not mentioning that. I've read right past it, and my apologies to that. But he did win the award or the recognition for Student of the Month for his participation in the culinary arts. All right. This brings us to the second public comment period. Same rules, except for 2 minutes per speaker. Is anyone seeking to make public comment?
Good evening. Thank you again to the board for your service. Thank you, President Connolly, for responding to my email. I sent an email last week about why there was no discussion on the new policies. So I appreciate you responding. I did respond back in some of my comments. Again, I still have concern with some of these policies. I wanted to thank the community and the students that spoke up earlier this evening. To the students that spoke up, I'd say take note of what Pastor Walsh said. We did vote you in. You did have your agenda, and it was clear what your agenda would be when you were voted in. So, as young citizens in the community, take note that, that's your choice to vote, or talk to your parents at any time with an election, whether it's the school board or a national election, a state election. But that, as citizens and as a democratic nation, that's our right to choose. Just again, my comments with the policies, I just don't feel like these policies belong in a public school. If you really truly believe in these policies, they belong in a parochial school or a school that's not in the public. My final note, I wanted to end on a positive note. Dr. Cartwright, thank you so much for your service. You came into this district during a crisis that the nation was facing with COVID. You took the baton from Dr. Kroom and you ran with it. I feel like I'm a better person because of what you've done for our community, for our staff, for our students. I worked with you on the Dover Eagle Foundation, which again, that's a great representation of our community that's helping our students and our staff. So I'd encourage anybody, as Director McKinney said, join the foundation and help raise money because it's helping our students and it's helping our teachers. But again, working with you as well as with Dr. Kroom, I feel like, certain people come into your life and make an impact, but both of these women made a true impact on my life and my family. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. Anyone else?
Chris Tola, I had signed in. My second comment I want to separate from the first one. Not last week, but a month ago, previous meeting, there was a comment about asking the teachers to volunteer half a day's pay, and I just felt like that was completely out of line. Our teachers are already short-staffed and overworked. Director McKinney even mentioned that he wouldn't voluntarily pay extra taxes when that question came up. So asking our teachers to do that, I think, is not healthy for the district. Just having that conversation out loud would make it difficult to hire any teachers into this district. So please consider that in the future.
And I'm sorry, I missed your last name the first time, and I missed it again.
Chris Rotolo.
Rotolo.
Yes, and I've taught for 2 decades, so I understand exactly the other end of the decisions that are made here.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Dr. Geyer.
Good evening. This is a bittersweet moment for me. It is my last meeting I will be attending as an employee of the district. I wanted to publicly thank and congratulate Mrs. Jamie Snyder. I'm very happy that she's coming on board. We got to spend some time together this evening, and we're planning our meetings in June, which would be interesting. I will be taking her around next Friday afternoon, though, to meet with all of the teachers, as many as I possibly can, to put a face to a name. I think that's very important before they leave for summer break. I'm also standing here as a member of a group of people, 16 of us. Director McKinney, you asked about is 15 a lot to retire. We're losing 16 this year. A total of more than 430 years of service to this district. I don't remember anybody saying anything about that at this meeting. That's a first for this school board. I've been here for 31 years. And, we don't do this for recognition. We do it because we love our community. Many of us in this group have dedicated their entire career to this district for a reason, not for thanks, but because we love our community. And so when I look at the people that, it's not about me, it's about all these other people that are retiring. And it's just, I had to say that. That bothers me. I also wanted to let you know that I had the pleasure of doing my doctoral research in our classrooms. As most of you know, I spent almost the entire year in a kindergarten classroom, and I have a granddaughter who's leaving first grade this year. And there were comments made about what they're learning in these primary classrooms and even grooming some of our students. I couldn't find that when I was in those classrooms. What I found were students learning the basics, reading, writing, math. They were learning how to be honest. They were learning how to take ownership for their actions. If that's grooming, I'm all for it because I love it. And I'm very proud of what we do here in this district. And lastly, Dr. Cartwright, thank you. Thank you for being a woman of integrity and someone who is defending public education. I appreciate that, and so do many others.
Thank you, Dr. Guy. Anyone else? All right, the public comment period is closed. We now go to comments and observations from the board members. I guess we should start, since we started at one end to the other, we'll start in the middle with Dr. Cartwright. No comments? All right, we'll work our way around this way. We'll go that way. All right? After we can.
Yeah, nothing tonight.
Okay, Director Meese.
Maybe come back to me. I'm not sure.
Okay, Director Whitmer.
A quick question and then some comments. As far as River Rock Academy, has any school district ever visited? Maybe this is for Dr. Cartwright. Do they do tours down there? Or is it possible to visit as a board?
I don't know that. Our principals do attend the intake meetings and meetings throughout the students' time there, the update meetings before they are returned to the district. So principals have been there, but I don't know about tours.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to comment about the ceremony at the school. The Veterans Memorial Ceremony was very nice. And I wanted to just thank everybody who came along, Mr. Jacobs, to support that, including the Dover Eagle Foundation, individuals, the businesses, and just the dedication that it took to see that through. It's touching to see the service members there and to be able to see them appreciate it. And I also, I just, in regards to a lot of the comments, public comment, I just want to say that you're all being heard. We're taking into account every word. It's difficult when you have concerns that your words might be used against you to make comment, but I want to just say that we're considering everyone. And it doesn't mean we're giving weight to, any certain person or any certain group in the district or any kind of religious affiliation more than the students or anybody else. We're trying to consider everyone and be fair in regards to the policies. And in my opinion, I think if you lay the Title IX regulations right next to the board policies that we're looking at, I don't think you'll see much discrepancy there. But that's up to you to do the research, and I would just ask that you just trust us. I know that's hard to say now with, all the frustration that's already come out around the policies. But we are being careful for a reason, and hopefully in the future there'll be some light to this. And that's all.
Thank you, Director Whitmer. Director Wolverton.
Yes, Mrs. Geyer. You as an individual will be sorely missed. I know several parents that I've had to engage in regards to the children that you handle. and they think very highly of you and your professionalism and your decision-making in their students' lives. So I just wanted to say that to you. Mr. Young, could I ask you to take to the podium, please, for just a second?
You can ask.
The reason I asked you to come up there is because you apparently have a policy of your own, and this is what I've learned. One of your teachers, her husband and I, engaged each other, and he explained to me that one of the things that the teachers in your building really like that you do is when a child gets in trouble, you back the teacher. You have no problem in calling a parent and explaining in no uncertain terms your child is being punished because your child misbehaved. And those teachers really like that. And I just like to say that's a policy that could probably be adopted in some of the other buildings in this district. I think your superintendent will confirm that I am probably the one individual on this school board, having worked in the Bureau of Prisons for 20 years, believes in strong, strict, fair, firm discipline, but handed out generously when needed. And I just like to say that it was nice to hear that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing else.
Thank you, Director Wolverton. Director Kindig.
I don't have anything for tonight.
Okay. Director Miller.
I just want to say thank you to Director Kindig and Director Conley and Dr. Cartwright and the Transportation Director. I know there were a lot of issues with 74 closing, and I understand that you guys worked well together to try to solve some problems with the busing situation. So I appreciate the time and energy that you took. I also do want to say I wanted to congratulate those retirees. I didn't know the number, but I really feel like that when you retire from a school district, no matter how long you've taught, that you should be honored. So yes, I would like to honor all of the retirees, Dr. Geyer, Dr. Cartwright, and all of the others. So congratulations to them. They were going to love retirement, and that was on my list. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Miller. Director Hogan.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to talk the most here as the last one, but you know, I want to address the fact that, you know, my name was brought up about not being transparent. I think I've been very transparent. And last the meeting, when the emails arrive, I can respond to you privately or I can respond to you publicly so everyone can know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to respond publicly so you can cross my name off the list as you heard my voice. You may not agree with it, but you've heard me and where I'm coming from. So I think that's what you guys are looking for. So in response to the policies on sex-based distinction in athletics and student records, in consideration of recent emails and public comments regarding the implementation of policies, I've composed the following response. Sex-based distinctions in athletics. The policy titled Sex-Based Distinction in Athletic asserts that separate athletic teams on the basis of sex preserves fairness, increased opportunities for females, and enhances safety. This stance is supported by key physiological differences between males and females. Physical advantages of males. Males typically have broader shoulders, larger feet, and hands, contributing to enhanced athletic performance. Additionally, men possess larger hearts and lungs, which facilitates better blood circulation and oxygen to tissues. Men also have bigger and stronger bones, enabling their bodies to support more muscle and leverage effectively. These physical advantages often result in non-elite males outperforming elite female athletes. For example, in high school sports, Peyton McNabb suffered severe injuries from a volleyball spike by a biological male, resulting in long-term physical and mental effects, including impaired vision, partial paralysis on her right side, anxiety, and depression. Scientific consensus, it is well documented that males who have undergone puberty possess lasting athletic advantages over females in nearly all sports. This is a matter of scientific fact and is not open to debate. Student records. This is the second policy. Name, sex, and gender identity. The policy concerning student records, name, sex, and gender identity underscores the fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing of their children. This includes ensuring that parents have the right to be informed about significant aspects of their child's mental, emotional, or physical health. Schools do not have the authority to withhold information or hide gender transitioning from parents or guardians. In conclusion, biological females have the right to fair play in sports, supported by policies that advocate for their physical protection. Similarly, parents have the right to be involved in decisions regarding their children's mental, emotional, and physical health. I also have one more thing. So the comment was made about a biblical passage in Galatians that said that neither Jew nor Greek were neither male or female, that we're all in Christ Jesus. That passage is referring to salvation. It is available to all, both male and female, Jew and Greek. It is not referring to biological sex or gender identity, but the fact that salvation is not just available to males or females or Jew or Greek. I'm done.
Thank you, Director Hogan. All right. I just want to explain some procedures. And I think there's some misunderstanding, and there were some things that went out in the press that talked about we were going to be voting on the policies tonight. But just as a reminder, and you can reference this by going into our policies, the process for policy introduction and adoption or rejection is outlined in Policy 003, the local board procedures, which requires 2 separate readings of the policy before action can be taken to approve or reject the policy. The requirement for 2 readings does not mean actually reading the policies out loud. It just merely means posting them in our policy agenda. There's nothing that requires deliberation prior to taking up the matter for action. So when it is posted, just like you see with all the other policies that get posted, there's hardly anything said until the motion is made to adopt, and then it's open for discussion. In order to take up the matter for action, so it will first appear on the agenda, and then it requires, just like you saw us do tonight, it requires a motion and a second. All right, so parliamentary procedures requires that motion and a second, and at that point, the board members will have the opportunity for making statements if they so desire. But again, there's nothing that requires any member to make any statements during deliberation or discussions. They do so at their own option. So members of the public can't force a board member to speak. The chair of the meeting can't force the board members to speak. We open it up, just as you heard many of the motions tonight. Is there any discussion? The purpose of that is to ask if anyone has anything to say before we go to a vote. If there's nothing to say, then we go to the vote. The real decision making is made when we vote. Nothing prevents a member who has no questions or amendments or opposition from speaking in favor of a motion. And matter of fact, it's not uncommon for members who support a motion to just remain silent, since their real support will be reflected in their vote, yes or no. Most often you'll see members make statements when they feel the need to persuade others to join them in their opposition or to their support of the motion. If they don't have a desire to sway anybody, they're not required to say anything. So there's nothing in any of the deliberative scenarios that we're talking about, whether it's policy or whether it's any other motion that we have here, that would suggest a violation of the Sunshine Law, has been suggested many times from the podium here. Since that law itself does not require discussion. But to the contrary, the Sunshine Law requires all deliberation and action on agency business when a quorum is present to be conducted in an open meeting. So just to be clear again, it doesn't require members to make statements during deliberations. And that's been reinforced by our solicitor who's made that statement. I think you made that statement in public. I know you've made it to the board when we've asked you in particular. Have you made that statement in public or not?
I can't remember
Okay, you made a lot of
everything,
statements in
yeah.
public. Right. I saw you smiling there, but so in any regard, these policies in June, we will not have a planning meeting. We will only have one meeting. It'll be the business meeting. We'll do that through the summer. So it'll just be one meeting per month. So take a close look at the schedule for meetings. And when you look at the schedule, double check it again, because the one that we published in December, we voted to change it to allow us 30 days between the adoption of the preliminary agenda. The law requires us to have 30 days in between so that we can vote on the final budget in June. If we didn't have the 30-day, we'd have to schedule a special meeting just to accomplish that, because we must have that approved before the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. So I hope that clarifies some things, but I can assure you there will be some things said during the meeting in June. I know, just as Director Hogan made some comments tonight, I know that there's some other folks that have some things that they would like to state in regards to that. But there's no coercing on my part for members to speak. I know there's a lot of pressure. You want to know why. I think by the time we're done next week, you'll probably know why, and why individually we either support or oppose this. I will echo what Director Whitmer has stated. We are listening to everything you say, and we respect the diversity of opinion. You know, this community is fairly large, and there's a lot of opinions out there that are maybe different from mine, different maybe from individual board members, maybe the board as a whole. But when it comes down to a vote, your voice will be considered in that. I can't say it's going to go in your favor or against it. We won't know until the vote. So, like I said, I hope that clarifies things. I would also like to thank Dr. Geyer. In the course of all this, we don't get to know the teachers that well, but you spent some time briefing us on some matters, and I can just say that my impression of you is very high. I think you're a consummate professional, and since this is your last board meeting, I want you to at least hear it from me that we appreciate you. And I'm not disrespecting anything that anybody else didn't say. I'm sure that they would have similar comments in that regard, but I do thank you for your service. And I would like to hear more what was done in past meetings, because since we've been here, when these sheets come through, we don't make comments on them. So I'd like to know what it looked like in the past as far as recognitions for people retiring. I know it does make a difference when someone acknowledges your services, and our assumption has been that the administration does that because they know all the names. A lot of these are just names to us because we haven't learned everybody yet. And in 4 years' time, we may not learn them all. But I do appreciate you bringing that up, and we'll try to do better in that regard. As far as emails, a lot of the members of the board defer to me to answer things, and I usually talk to people before I do answer emails. I'm just going to take ownership to that. It's not the rest of the board that is being non-responsive. It's me. I'm going to have to do better in that regard. So I want to be careful when I put something in writing, and I want to make sure that I reflect the proper and respectful tone in those emails as well. But it's not really their fault. It's my fault. So I'll take ownership for that and take the IOU to do better in responsiveness. I didn't respond to yours until today, but I'll try to do a much better job there. So are there any other comments? Director Meese, I'd like to come back to you.
Yeah, thank you. A couple things. I want to echo what Director Hogan said. That was very well put, well stated, easy to understand, and in a nutshell. I wanted to add to that, that the policies that we get, usually till we get them, they're very well vetted, implemented in other districts, vetted by those districts, implemented again, vetted again. So the fact that we got the policies and maybe, didn't break them apart, that might be the reason. I don't know. From my own personal perspective, that's why I personally didn't have questions or want to bring anything up in regards to any policy. I thought that they were written, and that's how most of the policies come to us, right? They're already vetted by PSBA or the attorneys, or there's not a whole lot of wiggle room actually for us to make when it comes to policies, because there's so many regulations and laws that we have to abide by. So in regards to the emails, I do answer an email, and I looked back at Mrs. McGurn's email, and there wasn't a question that was posed in that email, so I did not reply to hers. But if there's a question in an email, me personally, I always try to respond to those emails if there's a question that's being asked. So I put that out there if it's in the form of a question. And I did reread hers while we were sitting here to make sure I didn't miss a question, just to not disrespect her. Lastly, in regards to some of the comments that were made about increased suicide rates and increased homelessness, why, I just posed this question. I'm going to try to not oversimplify it, but why would we encourage children to make choices that would lead them down that path? So those rates, those increased rates for children that are maybe not be prepared to make a life decision like that, why would we want to lead them down that path and almost kind of lead them astray, is my question. So those rates are almost, when there's spillage of those rates and the consequences of those decisions that these children are making, I don't know why, as adults or peers, we would, older children in the school, we would want to lead kids down that path to expose themselves to increased homelessness and increased suicidal rates. Right? So I know that probably is not going to be a popular thing to say, but it worries me and it breaks my heart, because the children are at an age where they don't know what those decisions they're making are how they're going to impact them. It's like there's other things that we don't allow students to do in the schools. We don't allow them to vape. We probably don't allow them to do a whole lot of public displays of affection, because where those lead to. So, we have to keep those things in mind, and we have those policies in our schools to help guide our children to make decisions that won't have consequential impacts on their life. So,
Thank you, Director Meese. The announcement for future meetings, our next meeting, somebody give me the date, is it June 20th? June 20th is our next business meeting. There will be no planning meeting next month. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Director Hogan moves to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will second.
Director Miller seconds the motion.
Ladies first.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. The meeting is